It was a day of sharp messages from world leaders, with comments ranging from the US-Iran peace deal and tensions with Israel to Ukraine's defense efforts, Russia's sanctions, and Europe's economic future. Here's a roundup of all the key voices making headlines. US Vice President JD Vance delivered one of Washington's strongest public messages yet to Israeli politicians opposing the new US-Iran agreement. Vance suggested that Israeli leaders should think carefully before attacking the United States, saying America remains Israel's most important ally. He argued that anyone in Israel who sees the US president as their biggest problem is ignoring the realities facing the country. His remarks highlighted growing friction between Washington and the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I don't want to get into hypotheticals that could torpedo the deal, because I think the president's expectation is that all of our friends, the Israelis, the Arabs in the region, we're going to work together and actually see this deal to completion. Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you have seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy urged Western allies to move quickly on strengthening Ukraine's air and missile defense capabilities. Speaking after Ukraine and Germany signed an anti-ballistics defense agreement, Zelenskyy said Kyiv already has the technologies and industrial capacity to contribute, but needs partners to help deliver results before winter. He called on coalition members to join the initiative and turn commitments into practical support.
Ukraine and Germany are taking very important joint step. We have some technologies, Germany has some technologies, and today our defense ministers signed already an agreement to bring these capabilities together. In Ukraine, we have a company that is capable of producing ballistic missiles. Firepoint is moving toward this, and you have the capable companies. As we invite all countries to contribute to these common efforts as much as possible. Our anti-ballistic coalition, all the countries that are part of it, must demonstrate full capability and deliver real results better this year. Dear friends, yesterday I raised two urgent issues with Mark, and the first is the number of unmanned ground vehicles. The second is long-range artillery ammunition. Right now there is not enough of either. We need both urgently. The funding being allocated for this is not enough. The quantities Europe is producing are not enough. What the Ukrainian army is receiving is not enough. So our long-range sanctions are hitting Russian oil facilities, refineries very, very effectively. And Russia is already facing fuel shortages, and that federal budget revenues are falling significantly. And at the same time, our mid-range strikes are seriously disrupting Russian military logistics, but Putin is not stopping this.
In a separate message, Zelenskyy said Ukraine remains ready for negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war. At the same time, he argued that Europe must act faster and more decisively, warning that Russia continues to pursue its objectives aggressively. Zelenskyy described Putin as determined to take everything he can, underscoring the urgency of stronger European action.
Путін хоче, щоб у нас все горіло. І він безумець. Це партнери відчувають. Україна готова до перемовин з ним, незважаючи на це. Але Європа повинна включитись наповну, щоб у нас була сильна позиція, включитись наповну по санкціям, без виключень по конфіскації, без виключень і по фінансуванню України.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen accused Russia of isolating its own people through restrictions on foreign digital platforms. She said Moscow was effectively constructing a modern version of the Iron Curtain, but in digital form, limiting access to information and international services. Her comments came ahead of the summit of European Union leaders in Brussels.
And this at a time where we send a very strong message also to Russia that we provide Ukraine with 90 billion euros loan for the next 2 years. So also to give a very strong message to say we're going to be by your side for as long as it takes. Russia, on the other hand, the economy is suffering. The fact that Russia has shut down the internet, closed Telegram, for example, speaks for itself, because Russia is again rising an iron curtain, but now it's a digital iron curtain on their people. And so far, this is a very special moment. We're very glad to have Volodymyr Zelenskyy here with the European Council, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussions that we will have.
Bulgarian President Rumen Radev signaled opposition to the European Union's next sanctions package against Russia. Radev said Bulgaria would seek exemptions if new measures threatened the operations of the country's largest refinery and fuel supplier. He argued that sanctions should not come at the expense of Bulgaria's economic stability.
България вече изрази определени резерви на тези санкции, защото ние вече сме заявили нашата позиция, че няма да допуснем санкции, които да вредят и да носят риск на българската икономика. Мога тук да посоча и риска за функционирането на Лукойл, мога да посоча рискове за снабдяване на столичното метро с резервни части. Аз днес и в София казах, че времето на кръстоносните походи отмина, защото тази война вече излезе извън окопите. Тя се разпростира върху икономиката, енергетиката, виждаме, че върху културата и спорта сега остава да обхване и религията. Много ясно съм заявил, че България в никакъв случай няма да възпрепятства общите европейски решения, касаещи Украйна. Който иска да достави военна помощ, военно оборудване за Украйна, разбира се, нека да го прави. Ние вземаме решение за нашите доставки според това какво имаме в складовете и дали можем да го направим. Предстои да се вземат въпроси за разширяването на Украйна, за приемането на Украйна в Европейския съюз и началото на преговорите. Мога да ви кажа от сега, че ние ще подкрепим процеса на преговорите. Ние ще преценим какъв е риска, затова тепърва ще има разговори, много сериозни. И ако видим съществен риск за оперирането на Нефтохим Бургас, Лукойл, ние ще искаме да бъде изключен от пакета санкции.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz pushed back against proposals for additional joint European borrowing. Merz said there should be no new European debt and insisted that the EU budget must remain balanced. His comments come as European leaders debate future spending priorities and defense investments.
Ich habe aus meiner Sicht klargemacht, neue europäische Schulden kann es nicht geben. Der Haushalt muss ausgeglichen sein und deswegen werden wir eine große Kraftanstrengung noch im zweiten Halbjahr unternehmen müssen, um den Haushalt für die Jahre dann ab 2028 zu beschließen. Aber das ist eine Aufgabe, die uns eher im zweiten Halbjahr bevorsteht als im ersten. Wir stärken die europäischen NATO-Staaten, wir stärken den europäischen Pfeiler der NATO. Wir wissen, dass wir mehr tun müssen und wir tun es.
European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said sanctions relief for Iran remains a possibility, but only if conditions are met. Kallas stressed that discussions about lifting sanctions can only happen once a credible agreement is in place and implemented. For now, she said, Europe is not yet at that stage.
With clear conditions in place, we have different sanctions on Iran. I mean, those that are related to nuclear, of course, if the conditions allow, if there is a nuclear deal, then I think the member states will discuss this. Then there are also sanctions on human rights violations, and we see the human rights situation is actually more severe than it has ever been. And then we also have sanctions on the freedom of navigation or hindering the freedom of navigation. So Once the conditions allow, of course, we also, member states will discuss whether the lifting of sanctions is in place, but we are not there yet. We have the 21st package of sanctions on the table, and I really hope that we can move swiftly with the adoption of that, because that goes hand in hand with also the deep strikes that Ukraine is doing, so that the pressure would mount on Russia to stop this war.
Russian President Vladimir Putin told ASEAN leaders that greater stability in the Middle East would benefit global energy markets. His comments come as attention remains focused on the newly signed US-Iran Framework Agreement and efforts to reopen energy routes through the Strait of Hormuz.
По многим проблемам современного мира наши позиции близки или даже совпадают. Это касается, в частности, ситуации вокруг Ирана. Мы единодушно приветствовали договоренности иранской и американской сторон о прекращении военного конфликта и о работе над параметрами будущего мирного соглашения. Полагаем, что тот факт, что документ подписан был главами государств, господином Трампом и господином Пашинскияном, тоже дают основания рассчитывать на то, что это будет документ, который серьезный документ, который ляжет в основу будущих договоренностей. Рассчитываем, что обстановка на Ближнем Востоке и в Персидском заливе стабилизируется, что благоприятно скажется в том числе на глобальных энергетических и продовольственных рынках.
From Washington and Brussels to Kyiv and Moscow, leaders used Thursday to send clear signals about diplomacy, security, and economic priorities. And with negotiators on Iran, Ukraine, and Russia all entering critical phases, those messages could soon be tested by events on the ground.